January 2012, Boston Mayor Thomas Menino sent a request to Boston public school officials. He asked that school officials come up with a radically different plan for where students attend school. The current school assignment policy wasn't working. 64% of students in K-8 didn't attend schools in their immediate neighborhoods. The school district was highly fragmented with very poor performing schools and frustrated parents and students.
I was under the impression that their teachers almost didn't believe in them. See, the real problem is that the places that need the best teachers are the places exactly where the best teachers do not go.
The public education system became a media focal point. Mayoral candidate John Connolly made it his sole platform. Yet in all this talk, there was a deafening silence on the most salient issue, race.
For one, when I had been watching the debates between Obama and Mitt Romney for the presidential elections, and Mitt had said that while he was governor that Massachusetts had the best public schools or best public school system. I personally laughed at that because it made it very clear there that there must be some kind of separation, because I know for a fact that Boston, inner schools in Boston, do not have even acceptable public schools.
87% of students in Boston public schools are minorities and 76% are low income. Additionally, the city remains extremely segregated. This 2010 census map shows residency by race. The blue dots are African Americans. Fixing school assignment within Boston public schools cannot afford to ignore race in its relationship to residential segregation.
My biggest thing is placement, area distribution. I would say that they connect very closely to race and class due to the based on the neighborhoods that they're placed in.
Unequal schools arise from unequal housing. Although many controversial methods like busing have sought to address this, the problem goes back decades. Segregated and unequal housing emerged in force with the Great Migration of African Americans before World War I. As the demographics of northern cities changed, concerned white citizens began deliberate policies to restrict the available housing for blacks. White intimidation tactics such as fire bombings became paired with real estate practices like restrictive covenants and blacklisting. A color line was drawn across the city map, delineating where blacks could live.
Residential segregation has been used by dominant groups to reinforce boundaries between privileged groups and subordinated groups. So when you have residential segregation and different groups are living their lives out separate from one another, then it allows for a taken for granted sense that this is natural in the way that it actually is supposed to be.
I just think that this rezoning is an easy way out of keeping everybody further segregated.
Fortunately, the silence is being broken. Individuals and groups are working to bring race into the spotlight.
There's something called, we can think about race as being a public secret, that in a way it's everywhere and yet it's the very thing that no one wants to talk about. And in so doing, we can't really resolve the thing that we think we want to resolve, nor can we really address the realities of continued racial segregation. So perhaps articulating it, calling out that much of this debate is about race, could at least provide us a kind of dialogue for talking about it that would get us beyond the platitudes and get us to looking at the persistent patterns of segregation that underpin this entire debate about schools.
I think that bringing to light all of the aspects that separate one community from another and making that public knowledge is a great way to kind of move into that field and allow everybody else to see that as well.
A report conducted by a collection of Harvard graduate students concluded that concentrated poverty and racial segregation should be the focus of any new policy proposals. Discussing race is essential to discussing these policy changes. We need to see it included in Boston's rezoning plans. With more work, we might eventually have a radical plan to answer Mayor Menino's requests.